Hello, I'm Kiki Taro, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I am going to be doing a video looking at Ethan Klein and Trisha Paytas' relationship from an astrological standpoint, which I think is going to be really interesting. I want to say this video could have been literally 10 hours long. Like, you don't know how much I struggled to condense everything because there was so much interesting stuff there. But this video is going to be kind of like an overview. If you guys like it, then I might do like a more in-depth video. But before I get into it, I just want to begin by saying thank you so much to everyone who liked, engaged with my last video. I literally had so much fun making it and seeing all the love from everyone on Reddit and everyone on YouTube. I just literally was like, it made my heart so happy. And again, like these videos are like my passion. Like I love doing them. So I'm going to be doing so many more. Please continue leaving like, your ideas in the comment section. I'm going to do my best to upload every single Tuesday. So keep an eye out on Tuesdays. I'm going to be posting videos. And yeah, as I said, today we're going to be looking at Ethan and Trisha's relationship from an astrological standpoint. How we're going to do that? Okay, so if you're familiar with astrology, you know what a synastry chart is. Essentially, what a synastry chart is when you take two people's birth charts and you literally put them on top of each other. And this allows you to see how like their different planets interact with each other and how they might like trigger certain things in each other. So if your like Venus, your planet of love, is making an aspect with someone else's Mars, when you overlay it, that might mean there's like tension in the relationship, or that can represent like romantic attraction in a relationship. But today I wanted to look at Trisha and Ethan's composite chart. So composite charts are a little bit different, and they're a little bit like newer of a concept in terms of like synastry, like new in the last like decade or whatever. I'm gonna be looking at notes, so if I'm looking down, that's why. But the difference between a synastry and a composite chart is instead of laying two charts on top of each other, a composite chart literally combines all the midpoints for both charts and creates a whole separate chart, like a new chart, like a third one. And it like basically treats the relationship as if it's its own person. So composite charts are really helpful for understanding like how do two people's energies blend together when they come together. Like they create a whole separate thing, right? They create a whole separate entity, which is the relationship. And the composite chart tells you the story of that. And the reason I thought it would be more interesting to do a composite chart reading for Ethan and Trisha is because I feel like their relationship is kind of like the center of the whole fascination with them, right? Like individually they're like these people, but like I feel like it would be so interesting to look at like their relationship and what is the overall purpose of the relationship, because like the idea in astrology is each relationship has like a purpose in each other's lives, but also in like greater society. And also like what lessons are they supposed to learn from it? How does their like relationship like relate to greater like societal themes? And I also am doing like a quick little view, like future outlook, current relationship status review of their relationship right now. I won't go too much into it, but I will do a little bit of a look into it. Beginning looking at their composite chart, I want to call to attention their ascendant. So an ascendant in a composite chart represents like the mask of the relationship. So like how do people view the relationship when they first meet the people that are involved, when they first interact with them? They have it in Libra, which is literally the frenemies ascendant in composite charts. Literally, it means these people are like friends slash enemies. Okay. Why do I say that? Okay, when you have Libra in the first house, when you are a person, it has really positive implications. It means that you're really balanced. It means that you value justice. It means that you value things like social harmony. And you like a lot of the time, people who have Libra ascendants, they're like pretty, because the first house rules like your physical appearance. So it makes them like really like have a really balanced physical appearance. But in a composite chart, that changes because it means that the people in that relationship value how other people view it above the relationship itself, which is makes sense, right? They're like public figures, they have this show together, so it makes sense that valuing social harmony is something that would be really important to them, of course. But it has negative implications because of the seventh house. So we have the seventh house in Aries. The seventh house rules partnerships. It rules one-on-one relationships. So when it's in someone's individual chart, again, I'm going to keep doing these examples. And if you're like someone who's like intermediate to like higher level knowledge of astrology, let me know and I can like tailor how much information I share. Like in a composite chart, the seventh house rules how they view the relationship individually, how it functions, how they experience the relationship as the people involved in it. And they have it in Aries. Aries is like, you know, a combative energy. It's a very independent energy. So it's not very happy in the seventh house, right? It means that there's going to be a lot of competitive energy. There's going to be a lot of really like confrontational, you know, energy when they communicate with each other. And that's a, you know, contrast to how they want other people to see them and how the mask they put on, like when it comes to their relationship, which we can see low key, you know what I mean? Like we know they're not good at hiding it, and that's part of being a public persona. But there's a lot of combativeness, and like that's literally baked into their composite chart. It's just, you know, a product of these their two energies coming together. But they have their sun in the ninth house in Gemini. Okay, so Gemini, it rules over communication. Gemini is all about sharing information, learning information, communication in a really fun and lighthearted way. You know, Gemini energy it's like a really fun kind of communication. It's like almost like gossiping that falls under Gemini. But we also have in the ninth house, which is ruled by Sagittarius. And Sagittarius and Gemini are two sides of the same coin a little bit, right? While Sagittarius is about like deep learning and like philosophy, higher learning, religion, like things like that, but they're meant to explore it in a Gemini kind of way. So that's like a light communication style. It's like, you know, chatting, it's like talk show vibes. There's that need to be lighthearted in that approach. There's a need to be kind of like warm and fun and sort of in that communication, and staying away from the more heavier, deeper aspects, which is okay. It's just not a part of that relationship. At the same time, the relationship has a lot of issues. Their sun is in conjunction with their Chiron. What is Chiron? Chiron is the wounded healer. So it represents the area in your life in this like composite chart. It's the area of their life that there's like unhealable wound that exists, something that's a really sensitive pain point. And when you have it in conjunction to the sun in a composite chart, that means that's an intrinsic part of the relationship, right? Like saying, hey, like you guys are going to be triggered when you're in a relationship together. Like there's nothing that you can do to change that. And Sun Chiron aspects can appear in different ways. One, it could be like something about their past is being triggered in that relationship. It can stem from like a past trauma or childhood trauma. It could also represent like external pressures that exist within the relationship. So it could be like family dynamics. It could be like financial challenges. Like these are things that are going to be like considered unhealable wounds when you have a Sun Chiron conjunction, like things that are going to be triggered no matter what in that relationship. And having a Sun Chiron conjunction in a composite chart doesn't mean the relationship is doomed. It doesn't mean that it can never get better. It just means that there's going to be a need for really deep introspection and healing that has to take place within that relationship. And that like by developing empathy and working through whatever problems they have together, there's like immense amount of growth potential. The next thing that I want to call attention to is this little fun mess of oppositions that exists between the Moon-Saturn and the Sun, Venus, and Chiron, okay? And it's saying that they have a really hard time dealing or discussing topics that on a deeper level impact them emotionally. Why do I say that? When a couple has the moon in the third house in their composite chart, it means that like communication of their emotions is going to be integral to the relationship, and like being able to talk through emotions and having exchanges that are like, you know, mentally healing and mentally also like stimulating are really important to them. But we have it in a conjunction with Saturn in the third house. So Saturn in a composite chart, it represents responsibilities do they have to each other in this relationship. Like what obstacles will they have to overcome in this relationship? Because Saturn is about restrictions and Saturn is supposed to teach you lessons, right? Basically, it's creating this emotional distance when you have a conjunction between them in the third house. It's like their communication feels like it's really controlled, or they have difficulty really expressing their emotions, which I think is a theme that I've seen in the podcast, right? Like there is kind of this feeling of needing to be careful around what you say, and kind of walking on eggshells around each other. Again, Saturn is about lessons, so there's going to be the lesson that around communication, around emotional restraint when it comes to communication. That is going to be a lesson to be learned for for their relationship to thrive. When there's this opposition between the Sun and Venus, which we went in an overview about what that means, with the Moon and Saturn, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Firstly, it makes it so that there's this kind of feeling that's like, okay, we need to deal with like our real feelings, and we have to be careful about how we talk to each other. But like the Sun and Venus is like, hey, I want to party, like let's have fun, like let's talk about everything. And it's like there's this tension because they love talking to each other about these big ideas, but at the same time they might struggle to like get into their emotions and like deal with like the stuff that's more emotionally vulnerable. It's like you're talking about these huge concepts that, like, I don't care what anyone says, like your worldview, how you view the world, your religion, your politics, it has a connection to your personal, right? Like people will say, oh, politics is not personal. It is personal because it's based off of your like your emotional experiences. And in this like kind of chart, what I'm seeing is like there's this deep connection between their emotional experiences and their greater ideals, their greater like philosophy. And when they disagree with each other on that, it's not just like, oh, well, we just disagree. No, it's deeper than that. And that's the issue. Like they're not able to acknowledge the fact that like this is not just like an issue around ideas. This is like about like deeper issues around like emotions and how we maybe don't feel validated in our emotions. Okay, now let's move on to the 5%. Okay, that 5%. If you know, you know. I was like originally like not, it wasn't going to be a focus like in this video at all, but looking at the composite chart, I realized like money and finances, like it's not something that's surface level to them. It's like deep. It like goes deep, deep, okay? And I want to talk about that. And by doing that, I want to firstly call us to look at the second house. And as we can see, we have Pluto in the second house. So what is Pluto? Pluto is basically the planet of like death, it's destruction, it's issues with power. And we have it in the second house, which has to do with material resources. It has to do with money. It has to do with self-worth. And we have Pluto in the second house. Let's say in a like person, right? Like not even in a composite chart, just like in a person in itself. It means that the person has this really there's a lot of insecurity around like the idea of losing money, or like compulsions around money, like the idea that like money is going to disappear, like you need to hold on to it really quickly, which results in like overspending. It could be like, oh my god, like just like you don't want to think about it till you overspend, or you're like obsessive with your money. You're like, I have to be careful about where I put it, and I have to do this and I have to do that. But when we have it in a composite chart, that is when it gets interesting. Okay, there are issues that are going to be tied to like material security, like money, and also power dynamics, okay? Because Pluto is about power dynamics. So it means that A might be bringing a lot of money together, but at the same time, they're going to trigger each other around issues of money. Because the second house rules self-worth, it might stir up issues around how they feel valued in relationships. Pluto is like a very karmatic planet, okay? So like when you have it in the second house, it's not just talking about like right now, it's talking about past lives as well. So when you see it, it's could be, and also if you don't like to say past lives, you can say like childhood, like whatever, you know what I mean? But it's like these people clearly have issues around money, and in a relationship, it creates firstly power struggles around money. So both people want to control the money, and for them, the who controls the money has power, the upper hand in the relationship. So I was looking at both of their natal charts because I was like, what's the deal? Like, how do they individually like what are their second houses look individually? Ethan has Saturn in his second house. So that already means like issues around self-worth. And Trisha has Pluto in her second house. So she literally has natally this position, Pluto in the second house. So there again, there are some like there's a karmatic history around money. I know she has like a like this, you know, she struggled financially in her early years of her career, and there was a lot of like craziness that happened. It doesn't surprise me that that's something that is like you know, really important to her. Trisha also has Saturn in the fourth house in her natal chart, which to me is interesting because it's like when it comes to like I can I don't know like a lot about Ethan's like childhood and history. Like I imagine he like I know he grew up in like a two-parent home. Like I don't think he grew up with financial issues. It could have been like generational trauma that maybe is happening on his end. But with Trisha, it's like Saturn in the fourth house. So Saturn in the fourth house is a really tough position. It's like it just means that you had a lot you grew up with a lot of issues in the family. Like I'm so sorry if you had Saturn in the fourth house. Like a lot of issues with the home, issues with the family, and I'm sure that's like connected with money to her. So I can see why it's like such a pain point for her. I'm not gonna do a full prediction just because of time, but I just want to say like they currently have Pluto in their first house right now, conjunct their ascendant. So in their composite chart. So there is a lot of huge transformations, a lot of change that's happening in their relationship right now. And I think like it would be really interesting to go in depth, like look into like specifically, you know, what's happening right now, what's happening this year. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that. I hope this video was informative. Please like, subscribe. It really helps me so that I can put out more of these videos. And thank you so much. Bye.